Hello, YouTube. Good Sunday morning. Indeed, it is a wonderful, chilly 30-degree Sunday morning over here in Sydney, Ohio. So, I've decided I'm going to get some batteries for this old truck here. Good old Thunder Knees batteries. So, or at least that's the presumption, because I'll tell you what's been going on and why I think that. Because, you know, I worked on cars many years as a backyard shade tree, jack of all trades, master nothing mechanic. And yes, I know my stuff, or I know how to find out what I'm looking for on my stuff. It's funny. You know, I helped the dude. He had I'll tell you a little story first, okay? And this is somewhat trucking related, and this story is not trucking related. So he had a Ford Expedition that they towed over to my yard. It was the closest place he could, with a rope. I mean, it was the closest place he could get it without towing it on the street, and God knows what would happen then. Anyway, so they've had it for years, and it died. And the code reader said it was fuel injection or something like that. I don't remember what the exact code was. I didn't take the code, so I couldn't tell you. But, and I told him, I was like, good luck, because first of all, it's not running, which means the code reader isn't necessarily going to tell you exactly what's wrong with it all the time, because usually the one that I have, it likes to actually have the vehicle running. So it sat there for weeks and weeks, and it's a big yard. I rent the property, so along with a few other people, and there's lots of room in front of my place because that's just the way it's set up. So it sat there, this Expedition sitting over off to the side in the yard, and taking up space that I need the space. I don't need the space. Anyway, I did some research, right? We went out there and we looked at it. He came over, the guy that owns it, or his dad, he came over and looked at it. And I looked at it with him, and it wouldn't start. It would turn over with a jump, but it wouldn't start, and was acting stupid, like no fuel or no, but the weird thing is I could have sworn I smelled fuel, so what's going on? He replaced the fuel relay switch, which is what it said it was, and that didn't fix the problem. Of course it didn't, because this model Expedition, the 2000, I think this is 03, maybe 05, probably 03 or 02, I'm not sure. It's around the year model of the Navigator I have. And they are notorious for having problems with the board underneath the fuel relay switch, basically like a light bulb, the filament inside a light bulb, or say maybe I can't say a potentiometer, if any of y'all know what that is, but something like that. So you got the electrical connection goes across. You have two connectors that have to make points, and it goes across, and over the years, as it gets hot, the middle thins out, right? And eventually, I mean, it'll make contact sometimes, and at certain temperatures, it slowly gets further and further apart because the contact points eat themselves up due to electrical arcing and so on and so on and so on. I don't know the whole exact details of it, but I know that's basically what happens. And that's what happened with this. And the way you can fix it is buy a board, which they're getting hard to come by, so they're getting a little bit more expensive. And I think it's like a $300 board or something like that. I'm not sure. I didn't price it. It's not my car. I don't care. Okay. I told the dude I did some research on it and found some videos of a bypass for, you can hook a relay into the wire from the power source, basically a power source wire, to the fuel pump relay, I think is what it was. I think that's what it does. I don't remember. All I know is you can bypass it with a homemade fix with a relay built into it, so, and a fuse, so that way if anything happens, it'll blow the fuse or it'll blow the relay. It's not going to burn up the vehicle, right? I mean, you could straight wire it like a moron and risk God knows what. So which you don't want to do, because, you know, if something goes wrong with the wiring and it overheats that wire that's leading to the fuel system, I'm sure it leads to a location where it's not necessarily going to start a fire, but you never know. I mean, it is a fuel system. So I hooked the relay up and got it in there. And the funny thing was, is I had taken the actual fuel pump relay out to do all this, because I was checking everything and forgot to put that back in. So it didn't start originally when I first fixed it. But then I was putting everything back together, and I'm like, oh yeah, hang on. All right, now fired up. It fired right up. So needless to say, we got it running, or I got it running. So, and then he's like, well, you know your stuff. No, just a little bit of research. That's all. That's all I did was research, and a repair that hooked up 4 wires, and that was it. Okay, it's really simple. I know some people aren't as mechanically inclined, so it wouldn't work, but no car is going to beat me. Okay. Anyway, so back to my truck. The issue with my truck is we're between 12.5 and 12.6 volts now. So the issue with my truck, I got back from 9 days off and went to fill up, and I was 20 gallons shy of the fuel that I should have technically had. I think 20 gallons. It might have been 15 gallons. I'm not sure. I have to do a little bit of more research on that, maybe. I don't know. It all depends on what this fix that I'm going to do repairs. But I got in the truck, turned my heater on, spent the night in the truck, and rolled out the next morning. So the APU was coming on every 15 minutes after it shut off, which is highly irregular. It's not supposed to do that. So I knew my voltage was dropping rather quickly. It's had 2 or 3 occasions where when you start it up, it does the first hesitation and then acts like it's doing fine. Okay. And that's another sign that you got a dead cell or your cold cranking amps are going bad. Which is, you know, dead cell related or internal organs of the battery. There are other things that could cause that, but more than likely it's the battery having a dead cell, basically. So my cold cranking amps are getting shot. And it has done that more. And the colder it gets, the more it does it, which also tells me, because, I mean, in the warm weather, it's not that big of a deal. I didn't have a problem, but there was once 3 days ago where right after I shut the APU off, I went to start it, and it did the hesitation start. So I'm going to Freightliner because I've posted a query on one of the forums in Facebook, and dude said he got a really good deal on some batteries at a Freightliner dealership. So as long as I'm paying less than $140 a battery, I don't really care, because the batteries are expensive as all get out at Love's and Advance Auto Parts and Walmart and so on. So Walmart, you know, and I'm not going above 750. I know you can, but the higher you go above it, the thinner your stuff is, the more chance for battery failure and corrosion and all this and whatnot. I mean, they started out with 650 cold cranking amps in this vehicle, which is 2,900, no, 16, 650, 13, 2,600 altogether. You only need, I think I read 1,900 or something like that to start the vehicle, or 1,600. Anyway, so you need 2 and a partial battery to start this vehicle, which is why I presume it's 1 battery, possibly 2, or 1 battery going on to 2, which is going to lead on to more, which, you know, your alternator can kill a battery, your battery can kill an alternator, and so on and so on. I don't want to end up with a dead alternator because of this. So I'm checking the voltage. I wanted to see if it went down any slower with my system shut off. I mean, my heater will still work, but my fridge will be out, my lights will be out, and so on. See, because I turned off the switch. I don't have a Schneider truck, and those of you that do don't know what I'm talking about. Those of you that got some of these other company trucks don't know what I'm talking about. The next to your driver's seat, there is a switch that says it's got a red light on it, and if you flip it one way, you basically shut everything off in the truck except for like your bunk heater. and it will not draw as much out of the battery. And like when you leave your truck, that's what you do, is you shut that off. You can actually have one of those installed, or you can have like a little toggle installed, and it'll help save your battery life. So nothing will run when the truck's not being used for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long you decide to take off. Or if you decide to quit working altogether and you just want the truck to sit, shut it off, your batteries will still be good for a little while. Right? So anyway, that's what it's doing. So I'm going to go get batteries. I'll add more to the story and detail it a little better as to whether or not it fixed my problem when I get done. I'm not doing that till tomorrow after I make my drop. It is Sunday right now. Actually, I'll go ahead and post this, and then I'll let y'all know the results later on. And that way y'all can follow along if you want to. Or you can add comments about if you have any other idea of what you think it might be. Because, you know, this is a much bigger motor than any vehicle I usually work on or used to work on. So, although symptoms are kind of the same. But that's that. I mean, I've been going for, I want to say 45 minutes now, and it's down to 12.5. But when my APU is running, it's up to 14.3, and it didn't used to be that high. It used to be 14.1. And I knew there was issues with this. I could have sworn I had issues with my battery when I first got this truck. I wasn't sure. And now these things are rearing its ugly head. I mean, the symptoms that I always thought were battery related had to do with what this truck was doing. And it was only very occasionally, very, very occasionally. And now the symptoms are becoming more prevalent because of the weather, the cold weather. I'm just hoping that it'll start tomorrow morning. I got till 3 p.m. to deliver this. So worst case scenario is I'm walking right over there to the Love store here. I'm going to take these 4 batteries, and I'm going to take them in there, and I'm going to say I need 4 batteries. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario is I go make my delivery, and then I'm going to run to Freightliner and take care of business. And then maybe I'll get a trip, and maybe I won't tomorrow. I don't really care. As long as my issue's fixed and doesn't cost me a ton of revenue. I would rather pay, if it's true and they're $75 a piece, I'd rather pay $300 for 4 batteries as opposed to $600 here for 4 batteries. Or I'd rather pay $600 here for 4 batteries as opposed to either getting an Uber to an auto parts store while my truck sits on the side of the road or in a parking lot and pay for an Uber plus the $600 for batteries or $550 for batteries because they're just a hair less at the auto parts stores, and then the trip back to my truck and then replace the batteries, and then the trip back to give them the core. I have a battery tester, so when it shuts out on me, I'll rip them out and test them. And not that that matters. I mean, if it's the batteries, then, well, I'll know whether or not it's the batteries when I pull them out, right? So anyway, it's Sunday. I'm about to watch my church. Y'all have a blessed day.